Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm being joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How are you doing today on this Friday fun day, 6:30 p.m. Eastern? How are you doing tonight?
I'm always good on a Friday night.
There we go. Friday is always a good day, especially when we're doing another episode of the Harvey Hour.
I enjoy it very much. I look forward to it every week.
All right, well,
Twice a week.
Here's the thing. We got some breaking news that broke literally right before the show, and we don't really talk about this because we're not, experts on this, but it's breaking news. It has to do with football. We're talking about the Carolina Panthers have gotten the first overall pick. The Bears have traded it away. So the Bears trade the number 1 overall pick. The Panthers trade away the 9th pick, the 61st pick, which is a second-round pick, next year's first-round pick, and a 2025 second-round pick.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. You got 4, and plus DJ Moore, their wide receiver. So they gave up 4 picks, a player, and you got the first-round pick. You got 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and then DJ Moore. That's who you got and then you get the number 1 overall pick. So,
wow.
I think I want to start with this one. Okay,
that pick was number 9?
They had the number 9 pick, yes.
I don't know why they did that.
What do you mean?
Well, there's a lot of good quarterbacks in this draft. I mean,
I agree.
They think Bryce Young is the best, I guess, and maybe Alabama isn't so far from where they play their games, so they figure this guy's in the region.
Right.
He's the one we want. But I think there were 3 other quarterbacks that could be, in that category that they wouldn't have had to give up all of that to get. So we'll see. What do you think? Well,
here's what I was going to go for, right? So, since the Panthers, by the way, 2 years ago, they wanted to get Matthew Stafford. They were going to try to trade to get Matthew Stafford from the Lions. He eventually went to the Los Angeles Rams and won a Super Bowl in his first year. And then they were in the running for Deshaun Watson. And we saw how that turned out. The Browns decided because they were so desperate to get a quarterback.
And overpaid.
They overpaid him to the nth degree, and they got him. So the Panthers were stuck with Sam Darnold, and then they had Baker Mayfield, and then they were eventually left with P.J. Walker. And they also have Jacob Eason on their roster as their 4th-string quarterback. And also Matt Corral, who I believe they drafted in last year's draft. So they have a bunch of quarterbacks, and now they're in the prime position to draft the guy that they want. And here's what I'm going to go for. I'm not going to pick Bryce Young. I don't think the Panthers should pick Bryce Young. I'm going with C.J. Stroud. That's my pick. Although, I think it's, truthfully, I think it's between 2 guys. C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. But if we're talking about the prototypical quarterback in the NFL, it's about a 220-pound, 6'4" pocket passer. That is the prototype for a NFL quarterback.
That's not Bryce Young.
It's not Bryce Young. Bryce Young in the combine chimed in.
6 feet tall.
Not even.
194 pounds.
Here's the thing, though. At the combine, he was actually measured at 5'10" and 1/8 inch and 204 pounds. So he put on a little bit of weight, but he's 2 inches shorter.
Okay, well, Kyler Murray isn't very tall, and he plays pretty effectively in the NFL. So
sometimes
maybe the smaller guy is. They look at it differently these days.
Well, I forget who it was, but one of the shorter quarterbacks, it might have been Baker Mayfield, it may have been Kyler Murray. They said that sometimes they can't see over their own offensive linemen.
True, they're really big, those guys these days.
Although I will say this, Bryce Young could be the most talented quarterback. He very well may be. I think he's the most athletic quarterback. Although out of the 3 potential options, Anthony Richardson is the most athletic quarterback in this draft, hands down. But I don't think he's going to go in the top 3 of quarterbacks. I do think it'll go down to C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, and Will Levis as the top 3. Anthony Richardson, he didn't play great in college. I think that's why he
didn't play that many games either.
Correct.
19 games.
He barely played any games. He's uber athletic, though.
His completion percentage was pretty low, too, like 57%.
It was in his career, it's 54.7 in his career with Florida. And they truthfully, I see all of his highlights. They're running highlights. You don't see, and besides, he had 17 touchdowns, didn't throw many touchdowns, to 9 interceptions. I would choose C.J. Stroud strictly because of the game I saw him against Georgia. We saw how Georgia beat up on TCU. Now, it could be TCU is just lucky they got there, and it very well could be, because they got super lucky with Michigan. They got a bunch of red zone turnovers against Michigan, and Michigan just fell apart in the second half. But the way that C.J. Stroud played against Georgia, I mean, 67.6% completion percentage, 350 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. And CJ Stroud for the past 2 years has been relatively good. He's been really, really good.
He's a great passer and a great athlete.
He is, but Bryce Young, I would think, is a better athlete. He didn't have as good a year. Also, CJ Stroud this season.
CJ Stroud is the most accurate passer in the draft.
He is, and he's the better thrower. I mean, he had more touchdowns,
he has the best
one more interception.
He has a very good attitude, too. I understand his attitude towards his teammates and his coaches and everything is right up at the top.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to go with CJ Stroud.
As the number one pick?
As the number one pick.
Wow.
Well, here's the problem with this stuff.
How about his smarts out there?
What are you talking about? You think Bryce Young could be smarter than CJ Stroud?
He gets a very high ranking for his, awareness on the field, and when things break down, he improvises. He's a really good improviser, so that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And, so I think he might get it. He gets a little. In my book, he gets a nod in the smarts category.
Fair enough.
And the attitude category, too. He has a lot of good leadership skills, and his accuracy is great. So I have him at number one.
And you know what? That's a perfectly fine pick. I could completely understand that.
I think a lot of people are questioning his durability and his size.
Yeah.
So that could be a factor.
I do think that will be a factor.
That's not the issue with Stroud.
I think this is actually a really, really good trade for the Bears. Because the Bears didn't need to give up their second-round pick.
No, I agree.
I think they have, the 39th pick or something like that? They have a very high second-round pick. And I don't think they needed to give up their first that they got.
They're getting a lot of players now.
Oh,
they're going to be and pretty high in the draft.
I'm sorry, it was the Panthers that didn't need to give up their other second-round pick.
If they can pick smart, if the Bears can pick smart, they can help themselves a lot this year.
Well, here's what I'm going to say, though. Chicago needed to fill in some sort of wide receiver issue. I mentioned this right before the season started. They had the landfill of quarterbacks. They got guys who no other team wanted and Darnell Mooney. And then they eventually got Chase Claypool, who basically became useless on the team. I didn't really even see him. I thought he was going to be, worth something. Now you get DJ Moore, who I think was a pretty good receiver. He's a 1,000-yard receiver. He's really good. Now Justin Fields has another weapon on that team. So now you got Chase Claypool, you got Darnell Mooney, and you got DJ Moore now. So you have three pretty good receivers. Chase Claypool, people don't like. Darnell Mooney, people think is good. And DJ Moore, people are starting to like.
Well, now, maybe that will help Justin Fields out. He needs a lot of help.
He does, because his top receiver, I looked at this just now, his top receiver was his tight end. And the amount of yards he caught for was 544. You cannot. There's a reason why they were picking first. It's because your top receiver was your tight end at 544 yards.
Yeah.
Your highest wide receiver was 493, and that's Darnell Mooney. So now you actually have first of all, I would go with offense. I would go first defense, because your defense was absolutely abysmal, the 29th ranked total defense. And then I would go with another offensive lineman, because Justin Fields at the very end of that season was running for his life. He was running for he put up so many rushing yards at the end of the year because his offensive line couldn't hold nothing.
Yeah.
You talk about a sieve of an offensive line, a turnstile of an offensive line. That was the Bears at the end of the year. And you know what? Justin Fields, Justin Fields is a smaller quarterback. He's a mobile quarterback, and your offensive line is terrible. That usually means you're going to get hurt sometime soon. So I think it's smart to go defense first because your defense was bad, and then pile up on offensive linemen, maybe get another wide receiver, focus on the defense maybe. But I think the first one needs to be an edge rusher. Got to generate some pressure because you got rid of your two best defensive players, Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
You'd send them to the Eagles and I believe to the Ravens. You got to get a new edge rusher now. And then after that, pick up an offensive lineman, pick up an offensive tackle, and then you could do defense and maybe another receiver there. That's what you need to do. And I think the Bears, I think they play this very, very well.
I don't understand the Panthers. They want Bryce Young, obviously.
Well, you think so? Yeah.
They gave up a ton to get him, and they could have had one of the top four They could have had a very good quarterback at their pick.
They're the number 9 pick.
Yeah, they had number 9 pick, and I think that
now the Bears have the 9th pick.
Anthony Richardson will be there at number 9.
I agree.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I think the Giants, I believe they have the 25th pick. If Anthony Richardson drops down to 20 to have the Giants
pick, drop down that low.
I think, but before the combine, people were saying Anthony Richardson could be an early second, maybe late first. And I was like, oh, perfect for the Giants. You have a very mobile quarterback.
They just signed Daniel Jones to a $160 million contract.
We don't know how consistent Daniel Jones be. He had a really, really good season this year. I want to see another year.
There's no way a rookie quarterback's going to replace him next year.
We don't know.
That just ain't going to happen.
We don't know.
Unless he gets hurt.
Which, hey, maybe. They need to shore up that offensive line.
Yeah, that's true.
But
and he needs to run a little bit less. He put himself in.
He's taking a lot of hits.
Took a lot of hits.
He's taking a lot of hits. Yeah. But here's my stance on this. If Anthony Richardson drops down to 25, the Giants should take him. Have him sit 1 or 2 years because the first 2 years of Daniel Jones' contract are light. They're not as heavy as the back two, which then they can move off of him at the very end.
No.
So that if things go bad, if Daniel Jones goes back to the way he used to be.
You're not a big supporter of Daniel Jones. We know that.
Here's the thing, right? I was a supporter of Baker Mayfield. He undercut me so hard this past season, and so I gave up on him. He was my guy. Here's the thing with Daniel Jones. I want to see consistency. If he goes out this year and they get a receiver, they get him a weapon. Odell's still on the market. They were interested in him this past season when he was recovering from the ACL.
They're never going to bring him in.
If they do, or if they draft a receiver who's very viable,
be a better option.
They were looking at DJ Moore. You can't get him. Maybe a Jerry Jeudy, maybe a T. Higgins. You bring in a solid wide receiver one. I want to see how Daniel Jones does. If he's even a glimpse of his previous 3 years, not this past one, I think in 2 years the Giants should move off him because maybe this was just the blip. So I think Anthony Richardson drops down, Giants should draft him.
Okay, well, I don't think he'll ever get that low. I've got Bryce Young, number 1, to the Panthers.
Okay.
Will Levis from Kentucky to the Colts at number 4.
That's a good pick.
C.J. Stroud, number 5, to the Seahawks from Ohio State. And
you think Stroud's going to the Seahawks?
Yeah.
They just signed Geno to a 3-year deal.
Yeah, but, 3 years is not that long. And
okay.
They're going to need a quarterback, and I don't know whether they really that sold on Geno.
Hey, I think Geno said he was betting on himself this year.
Yeah.
So
he did great, and I'm a supporter of Geno. I always thought he did a great job, and he suffered a lot of adversity along the way to get to that starting job, and he acquitted himself very well this past year. But I think going forward, if he doesn't do as well or better,
fair,
then they're going to be looking at C.J. Stroud, who I think they'll draft at number 5, and then I think Richardson's going to the Titans at number 11.
Okay, here's the crazy part. I was looking at a couple mocks before this trade actually went through. The Seahawks weren't drafting a quarterback. The Titans weren't drafting a quarterback. I think the Titans should. They're blowing up their team. They're shopping Derrick Henry. They got rid of their best defensive player. They're releasing Bud Dupree. The team is, and for some reason, the GM wants to keep Ryan Tannehill. For what reason do you want to keep Ryan Tannehill?
To be a mentor to
but here's
Anthony
the thing.
Richardson.
No, they got Malik Willis in this past draft. Ryan Tannehill said, it's not my job to mentor. We talked about this past offseason.
Okay.
I thought that was a horrible character trait of Ryan Tannehill saying, oh, well, it's not my job to mentor this guy. You're the quarterback. You're the quarterback. You need to do that. So I actually like your draft because if the Titans are really blowing up their team and starting from scratch, that would be a
quarterback.
And Malik Willis did not. Malik Willis, when he was in there, when Ryan Tannehill got hurt, he did not look not look like a quarterback in the league.
Can't pass. Passing is not very good.
But the crazy thing about it was when they played the Chiefs, they had 5 first downs in the second half, and it went to overtime. That blew my mind. The
defense played really well. The defense played very well that game.
That is a fair point. So I think we both agree. I think so. We both think this is a good trade for both sides. I'm asking you. Do you think each team?
You mean between the Bears and the
Panthers? Do you think anyone won and lost, or do you think they both won or both lost? Who do you think?
I think the Panthers lost.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, they get number 1 pick, but they could have had a great quarterback at number 9. Or a great prospect. I don't know if he's going to be a great quarterback, but a guy who would have a lot of potential. They're just very sold on Bryce Young. That's why. Hey. They did it. They gave up a ton to get him. Did they really have to give up that much? Wow, look how much they gave up.
It's the first overall pick. You got to give up a lot.
Yeah, but run through that again, what they gave up?
They gave up the number 9 pick. They gave up the 61st pick, which is in the second round of this draft, a 2024 first, a 2025 second.
They gave up 2 first-round picks.
2 first rounds, 2 second rounds,
they gave
and
up
a player.
Ninth and a first. Right, they gave up their 9th,
the number 9 in the first round,
the first round
and
next year,
and then next year the first,
second, and then
second,
a third
this one,
and a 4th. Next year.
No. Number 9 this year.
Yeah.
The 61st pick, which is in the second round this year.
Yeah.
Next year's first, 2025 second round.
Wow.
So 4 picks and DJ Moore.
Yeah.
And DJ Moore.
Yeah, DJ Moore's 1,000-yard receiver.
1,000-yard receiver. So
that's a lot. That's a lot to give up.
It is. No, I 100% will agree with you there. But
I mean, they're counting on Bryce Young to be the starter next year. Then
you're banging on whatever quarterback you draft.
I don't know. They
got
to bring in somebody to mentor the guy.
Maybe
Baker Mayfield.
I
doubt it.
I think they still have Sam Darnold under contract, but I don't know. Sam Darnold, I don't think he's a great mentor. Maybe.
I wouldn't think so.
The receivers, you got decent receivers. Terrence Marshall Jr., you got Rashard
Maybe
Higgins.
They think Bryce Young is another
Smith.
Lamar Jackson. Maybe they think he's another Lamar.
I think Anthony Richardson is closer to Lamar than Bryce Young. But hey, Bryce Young is I think if we're talking about pure talent, I think Bryce Young is probably number one.
Yeah.
I would choose C.J. Stroud. I think he's the better thrower. I mean, look how he played against Georgia. Georgia tore up TCU. That was an embarrassment of a game. Like we're talking about the national championship, and Georgia just plowed through. I'm going with C.J. Stroud. You got Bryce Young.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our next topic here because...
so you think that the Panthers will draft C.J. Stroud?
I think the Panthers should draft C.J. Stroud number one.
You do? Do you think they will, though? I think they're going with Bryce Young.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
I think you're probably right.
Just because he's in the neighborhood,
I think that's what Kenny Pickett did. The Steelers drafted Kenny Pickett.
Right.
Played at...
I mean, he's not that close. Alabama's still a ways from Carolina, but still.
A couple states over.
Yeah,
relatively
but Ohio
close.
State probably isn't that far from Carolina.
I don't know the distance of it, but I think it is between C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young. But let's get into our next topic because
Will Levis is from Kentucky.
Will Levis is not going number one.
Probably not.
Interceptions.
His accuracy's not that good.
Bingo. That's exactly why. So let's talk about this because on Monday when we did the show, it was reported that the Ravens were going to use the non-exclusive franchise tag on Lamar Jackson. And Tuesday came around and relatively close to the 4 p.m. deadline, the Ravens did use the non-exclusive franchise tag on Lamar Jackson, which would mean
I predicted that.
Which would mean that he's allowed to shop. As soon as the new NFL year, March 15 comes around, he's allowed to shop to other teams. Teams can make an offer, and then the Ravens could either match that offer or say, there you go, Lamar, go to that team and receive 2 first-round picks in compensation. So, here's the funny part. As soon as the Ravens decided to use the non-exclusive franchise tag, I have a picture here. A bunch of teams actually announced that they were not going to be in contention for...
Most of them. Most of the teams that need a quarterback. I was surprised.
Ready for this? The Falcons, Dolphins, Panthers, Commanders, and Raiders will not pursue Lamar Jackson.
Well, that's what they're saying.
The Dolphins just, literally about 2 hours ago, they opted into Tua Tagovailoa's 5th-year option. So they're saying Tua's our guy. The Raiders, Jimmy G Raiders, apparently that's still a strong one. Commanders, they said they're going with Sam Howell, but you talk about Lamar Jackson or Sam Howell, I would choose Lamar Jackson 10 times over. Panthers are going to draft a new guy, so that's completely out of the question.
Yeah.
Falcons were originally in contention for Lamar. There was high rumors that was going to happen, but they also just drafted Desmond Ridder. But if I'm comparing Lamar Jackson to Desmond Ridder, I'm insane because Lamar is so much better than Desmond Ridder. The Jets seemingly are going to go for Aaron Rodgers or bust. So how many teams... I think
if they don't land Aaron Rodgers and Lamar Jackson's in their sights.
He should be number one right now. The Jets should be number one on Lamar. So how many teams do you think realistically, including the Ravens, are in contention for Lamar Jackson?
Maybe the Jets.
Really?
Yeah. I don't see the other. I think the others are looking at it and saying, we don't want to be suckers. Right? Because the Ravens are going to come in and match.
Right.
And then they get the team that tried to get them and loses out to the Ravens. They get 2 first-round picks.
2 first-round picks.
Yeah. So I think the Ravens, they're betting that the offers to Lamar, if there are any, will be small. Will be a lot down in the range that they can hand. Not small, but they'll be, well under $200 million guaranteed. And they'll be able to scoop up Lamar, and they'll think it's worth the two first-round picks to sign him to a long-term deal.
Right.
Yeah. So I predicted this already. So
well, I mean, it was reported.
But I am surprised there isn't more interest. But in a way, it's understandable because most teams think the Ravens aren't going to lose Lamar.
Right.
So, but you know what? They make a good bid, and they I guess if I were another team, I would say, you know what? I'm going to go out there and I'm going to bid. Not going to be up in the Deshaun Jackson, Deshaun Watson territory, right? But I'm going to make a good bid because I want those 2 first-round picks.
Yes.
Right? That would be nice to get.
Of course.
Right? And then the Ravens will come in. They'll say, that offer, we can match that. They wind up getting Lamar, and they figure, you know what? To keep Lamar, it was worth the 2 first-round picks. So why wouldn't another team get in there, make an offer that they pretty sure they're not going to win on, but still get the 2 first-round picks?
Well,
that seems like I think I would do that.
Well, no, the Ravens aren't giving up 2 firsts. No,
who loses the 2 first-round picks?
The team that gets Lamar.
The team that gets Lamar.
So it's like a trade. I get Lamar, I give up 2 firsts.
Oh, I see.
So the Jets would need to give up 2 first-round picks. So here's what I'm going to say.
So I understand why nobody's
bidding on it. I don't think it's the 2 first-round picks. I think it's basically doing the Ravens' homework for them. But I think the Ravens actually played this very, very well, putting the non-exclusive franchise tag because Lamar has this number. It was reported that he wants a $250 million fully guaranteed contract. He wants at least Deshaun Watson and more. That's the starting point is $230, which is what Deshaun got for 5 years or more because he thinks he's better than Deshaun Watson, which he clearly is. I thought $300 million, 6 years, $200 million of it's fully guaranteed. I think that's more than enough.
That would probably get the deal done.
It very well may have. But here's why I can understand why the Ravens put the non-exclusive on it. It's because Lamar has this idea, like I said. He wants an absurdly high contract, which he may rightfully deserve, depending on...
It's not out there, though.
Depending on how it... Like, if he's wanting like $270 million fully guaranteed, like that's outrageous.
It's not out there. That contract that he wants is not out there. And rather than the Ravens beating up on him and upsetting him and give him a franchise tag,
right,
or do the exclusive, right, making him mad and alienating him, they're going to have the other team show him that contract is not there.
Right.
And then they're going to be able to sign him for what they want in the range that they'll be happy with.
Well, I think...
And then he won't have a reason to be unhappy because they proved that the market just wasn't there for that kind of contract.
Or if, let's just say hypothetically, the Jets make an offer and it's somewhere in the terms of, like I said, $300 million for 6 years, $200 is fully guaranteed. And then Lamar's like, okay, I'll take that offer. That's a really good offer for me. But then the Ravens come, no. We'll definitely match that offer. What if Lamar thinks, why can't you just offer me that straight up? He may be like, okay, I see how it is.
You know what? He gets his money. He's not going to care.
Hey.
He's not going to care that he had to wait.
Maybe. But here's where I'm going to
I think that if Aaron Rodgers does not sign with the Jets, then the Jets are going to get in there. And they'll give up the 2 first-round picks because most of their team is built now except for the quarterback.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So they can afford to give up the 2 first-round picks.
Here's where I think that we got to be a little bit cautious here, just a little bit cautious with Lamar. I believe it was Hard Rock Sportsbook on Twitter said that there's like some quarterback stat where it's like there's only been a certain amount of quarterbacks in their first couple of years to have 100 touchdowns and like a 95 plus pass rating, something like that. And so I looked at it. Well, can you believe out of the 70 games Lamar has played, he's only had 12 games of 250 or more passing yards.
I believe that. He's a running quarterback.
He averages just under 24 attempts per game, and his completions are about 15. He doesn't throw the football. So this idea that he's a great thrower, he doesn't throw the ball.
Well, he hasn't thrown it much yet, but as he gets older, he's going to throw it more.
And that's where I'm thinking, you can't tell me he's a great... Yeah, okay, yeah. If someone can complete 15 passes and only attempt 24 of them per game, then why doesn't everyone do that? It's like playing Aaron Rodgers type of conservative. You're throwing it 24 times a game. You're completing 15 of them. That's amazing. But don't tell me that he's such a great thrower. He doesn't throw the ball. You can't tell me he's a great thrower when I barely see it. And then you pick apart, you play like that a couple games, one game against the Browns. He played so well. Yeah, I'm looking at it right here. 12 games with 250 or more passing yards. 12 out of 70. And also this. The past 24 games, he played 12 games this season, 12 games last season. I think he's out of the past 34 games, something like that. He's missed 10 of them. So just think about this. How would you
That's
react?
why
right?
they don't like big guaranteed money.
Right. Because are you going to play?
But you know what? He's still going to get a lot of guaranteed money.
Absolutely, and he deserves everything of it.
Yeah.
Like I said, if I were a GM, I would put $300 million for 6 years, $200 million fully guaranteed. I said that from the start because I think that's what he's worth. Healthy, he's top 3 quarterback in the league right now. Healthy, but he's not healthy. It's like saying if I was a coach of a team, okay, and I was a college coach. Let's say I coached for 4 seasons. I coached 10 games a year. So, and my record is 30-10. That's a relatively good record. But what if I told you in the past, 2 seasons, I lost 5 games in each of those seasons. So I started off 20-0, but in the past 2 seasons, I lost 5 games. So I end up being 30-10. Would you be like, is that a trend? Are you going to lose 5 games again?
I don't know. It depends on how those games are lost. I mean, it's not just the quarterback.
But no, and here's the thing.
I mean, if he had 3 interceptions in every loss, then then I'd say, yeah, there's something wrong here. But depends on how if he had
fair point,
good games and it was somebody fumbled it, or the defense gave up 3 touchdowns or something like that, then it's not on the quarterback.
No, fair point. But I do think it's that type of Lamar thing. Lamar in the past 30-something odd games, he's missed 10 of them. So I'd be like, ooh.
I think his durability is starting to be an issue because he's a running quarterback and he's taking a lot of hits. And it's starting to show up a little bit. But
he's got injured in the pocket. He's got injured in the pocket.
It's not clear that he can't be a great passer. It's just that he hasn't passed it that much.
I got to see it.
We haven't seen it yet. And is somebody willing to risk huge guaranteed money on a bet that he can be a great passer when we don't really know?
Well, here's the thing. People bring up his weapons. It's not like the Ravens haven't tried. The Ravens have drafted, I think, 6 or 7 receivers since Lamar's got there. Since 2019, they've drafted 6 or 7 receivers. So it's not like they haven't tried. They had Marquise Brown, and people hated him. Hollywood Brown, they hated him because he dropped the ball, even though he wasn't anywhere near the top 10 in drops each season. So people, he dropped 3 or 4 touchdowns, I think, 3, 4, 5, 6 touchdowns. Which is, it's bad, yeah, but if we're talking about the overall drops over a 17-game season, he had, I think, 5 or 6 is the most in a season, compared to other receivers who were dropping, 10, 12 passes. So, yeah, and then the fans hated him, and they basically kicked him out of Baltimore. They didn't want to pay him also the big money, which I guess Arizona did. And they're left with Devin Duvernay, who made All-Pro First Team as a returnman, though. He's not a bad receiver, so get him a wide receiver 1. Here's the problem with getting him a wide receiver 1. The Baltimore Ravens play to Lamar's strengths. In college, he played a pro-style system. They ran the ball a lot when he was at Louisville. And so the Ravens looked at that and said, this guy can run the ball extremely well as a quarterback. Let's build off that. They have been one of the best, since Lamar got in the league, they've been the best rushing team in the NFL.
Yeah, well, that's not a surprise.
And people are saying, when you brought up he got injured, his durability, he runs a lot. People said, but he got hurt when he was in the pocket. Bad protection. The Ravens, since Lamar got there, have averaged the 5th best offensive line in the league. I went through a bunch of rankings. The average per season, 5th.
Yeah.
So they've had a phenomenal offensive line.
The criteria there is best offensive line protecting the quarterback?
Pass protection, yeah.
Well, that's because he doesn't throw it much. They're running it.
Well, he's in the pockets, and no, I guess that's what people would say.
He's in the pocket. He handed it off.
No,
or he ran it himself.
There are a lot of those.
So I wonder how they rank when you add in the run. They probably right up there too because they've had tons of yards, right? That's been successful.
Like I said, since Lamar got there, they've been the number 1 rushing team in the NFL.
Well,
so if you're including run, they'd probably be top 5 again. So Lamar's offensive line is not the problem here. Get him another receiver. Get him it's not they haven't tried.
You know what? It's going to be hard to land a elite number 1 receiver because they know they're not going to get many balls thrown to them. That's
a problem.
Yeah.
That's why receivers aren't going
there. They need to draft a wide receiver that could be great.
But here's the thing, though. Some great organizations, for some reason, have an Achilles heel when it comes to a draft.
Hopkins isn't going to want to go to the Ravens, right?
He may not.
He wouldn't want to go there because he's not going to catch 100 balls.
I agree with that, and that's why I would say most receivers don't want to go there. Is because they're not going to. Let's say they're a young receiver, right? And let's say they sign a 3-4 year deal with the Ravens. At the end of that 4 years, compared to another team that's not run first, what's the production going to be if the team moves off of them? Would he make more or less money? Yeah, I think that he would make significantly less money on the Ravens because he's not going to get the same amount of production as he would on a pass-first team or even a more 50-50 style offense. If you're a run-first team, you're not going to get the touches, and even then, you could see in the tape, Lamar looks for Mark Andrews every single time. Mark Andrews is generally his first option.
Well, that's the best receiver they've got.
I agree with that. I'm not going to argue that whatsoever because Mark Andrews is the best receiver.
Patrick Mahomes looks for Kelsey most of the time, too.
Well, he had Tyreek Hill and Kelsey. And even then.
But not now. I mean, this year he looked for Kelsey most of the time.
That's fair. No, that's fair. Well, I guess it depends on the play. If there's a design play to a receiver, obviously you're going to look for that receiver first. But I think this is smart for the Ravens because they basically tell Lamar, you think you're this, we think you're that. Third party, tell him what he's worth.
Yeah, no, I agree. But it doesn't look like many are going to take the bait and do it, right? All of the teams that really need a quarterback, except the Jets, have kind of said we're not interested.
Right.
So, but who knows? Things change. We'll see. But it's going to happen soon, right?
I think it is going to happen soon.
Yeah.
Even though the report is it's going to be a slow process, I think a team's going to jump in with an offer.
I think it will happen soon if Aaron Rodgers stays with the Packers.
Here's something else, right? People are going crazy over the Deshaun Watson contract. Kirk Cousins got a fully guaranteed deal. The world didn't come tumbling down. Other players and teams weren't like, fully guaranteed deal. That's a great idea. It was
for 1 year.
He's
Kirk
got
Cousins for 1 year.
I'm pretty sure almost all of his contracts have been fully guaranteed. Consecutive guaranteed contracts.
All right.
They were short-term contracts, but they were fully guaranteed.
Is he gotten a contract yet this year? I don't think so. He's a free agent, right?
I would need to look it up, and I'll do that in the break because
nobody's said anything about him.
I'll look it up right now if Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins is still under contract.
I thought he only had a 1 year deal with the Vikings.
I thought. Let's see. In 2023, Kirk Cousins won a base salary of $10 million and a roster bonus of $20 million. So he's still under contract with the Vikings. So I guess it was a multi-year deal. He's a free agent in 2024.
Okay,
that's his first, I believe, void year. So he's still on the roster for the time being. But once again, it is fully guaranteed. It is fully guaranteed. He signed a 1 year, $35 million contract. It doesn't say a date, but I assume it's last season. So there we go. But still to come, Dylan Brooks and Draymond Green went at it last night. And also, Kevin Durant got injured in pregame warmups, and he's injured once again. He's played 3 games in 3 months. We're going to talk about that. And finally, Stephon Diggs went on The Shop, and he was trying to find a reason why the Bills haven't been as successful as they should. We discuss that right after this.
Introducing video podcasts on Spotify.
Transform your storytelling into a show everyone can watch
or listen to.
Easily upload your video through Anchor, Spotify's free podcast creation tool.
So whether you're showing off a new recipe,
interviewing an exclusive guest,
or uncovering the next mystery,
you can now reach a whole new audience with Spotify.
Podcasting just became more than audio.
Create with Anchor, watch on Spotify.
You have a lot to say. Maybe you've thought, I should start a podcast. Meet Anchor, the easiest way to make a podcast ever. It's a powerful mobile app and web tool that lets you record a podcast anywhere and distribute it everywhere. It's great whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out. And it's 100% free. You can record your show straight into Anchor on your phone, iPad, or the web, using any mic you want. Record alone or with friends or co-hosts anywhere in the world. You can add background music and transitions, and your listeners can send you voice messages that you can incorporate right into your next episode. If you want to produce your show using another app, you can upload your own audio directly from web or mobile and still take advantage of Anchor's totally free podcast hosting. Once your podcast is ready to publish, Anchor can automatically distribute it to every major podcast platform. That includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, so your listeners can hear your show wherever they want. And on the web, you can see detailed analytics about how people are listening. Plus, you'll get a great-looking profile page where anyone can listen to your podcast or subscribe to it. And if you want to ask your audience to support your work, Anchor makes it easy to collect monthly payments from the people who love your podcast and want to see it grow. You really don't need a recording studio, expensive equipment, or a bunch of technical knowledge to deal with a podcast feed. Just get started and join the diverse community of podcasters already on Anchor. We can't wait to hear your podcast.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic. We're talking about the New York Jets because it's crazy what's going on between Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets right now because recently the Jets flew out to go meet Aaron Rodgers in his Malibu home in California. The amount of executives and officials that went on this flight to go see Aaron Rodgers, the vice chairman, the team president, the owner, the GM, the head coach, and the offense coordinator all flew out to try to basically say Aaron Rodgers will be a great fit. The Jets are a great fit for you. And we're on a wait-and-see basis now, talking to figure out if Aaron Rodgers is going to play again, if he's going to be with the Packers, if he's going to be somewhere else. So it's crazy. I want to do this first because there was I believe it was the president, because the Packers don't have an owner. The president of the Packers was interviewed about 2 hours ago, and he actually had this quote to say. He was questioned, is there a scenario where Aaron Rodgers is still the starting quarterback of the Packers next season? Where he said, yeah, I mean, unless if things don't work out the way we want them, yeah, we would. He is obviously a great player. So that means that the Packers are moving forward with Jordan Love, and it's off to Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers comes back, their plan is essentially foiled, because that quote right there basically makes it seem like they're ready to move on to Jordan Love. So I'm going to ask you, would Rodgers be a good fit in New York with the New York Football Jets?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. The only reason I say that is he's not, and we've talked about this a lot, he's not what you would call a good team player. I mean, a teammate. He's more of a loner, and he likes that persona, being kind of a loner. He's not, he didn't, look what he did with his wide receivers. He threw them all under the bus last year at the beginning of the season, said they weren't playing well. The rookies were, it's the wrong thing to do. I think he tried to give those rookies a little confidence. Instead, and if you do have criticism of him, do it in the locker room. I wouldn't do it out in front of the media. So, I don't know. Maybe he can be good for the Jets, but I think that one of the big questions here is, what do the Packers want in return? Have they said what they would want in return? Nobody. They haven't said that yet, right?
A lot of rumors are saying
they may want a ton.
But here's the original rumors are a first-round pick at least. Now, I saw a report somewhere saying that the Packers would be a little bit lenient with what they actually decide to basically ask for. So it could be a second and a fourth, could be a first and a fifth. Who knows? But it does look like the Packers want to move off Aaron Rodgers, except here's the thing.
I would say if the Jets could get him and not have to give up a first-round pick, that would be, in my mind, somewhat of a steal.
It's crazy the parallel between Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Brett Favre went from the Packers, being really good on the Packers, to then going to the Jets.
Yeah, but Brett Favre was older.
He was. Well, I don't think he was.
I don't know, but he was more beat up, that's for sure.
Yeah,
I agree with
that.
A lot more hits, I think.
Brett Favre, when he went to the Jets, was 39 years old. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be 40. He started the season. So Aaron Rodgers would actually be older than Brett Favre on the Jets.
Yeah, but Aaron Rodgers seems to be more mobile and athletic now than that Brett Favre was when he was 39 years old.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Here's the parallel between Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, right? They both fell in the draft. They were high prospects. They fell in the draft. They both talked endlessly about retiring several times over several seasons, basically bored people to death with the amount of times each of them mentioned retirement. They both had great regular season success in their careers, but in the playoffs were relatively disappointing, especially after winning their last Super Bowl. Especially Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, each of them only won one Super Bowl.
Yeah, after the Super
Bowl. So
far,
anyway, Aaron Rodgers hasn't finished his career. We don't know yet.
He very well could win a Super Bowl, but after the Super Bowl, they were pretty bad in the playoffs. You could look it up. Each left the Packers after about 15 or 16 seasons. I think Aaron Rodgers would be 16, Brett Favre would be 15. I think so. Yeah. And then both go to a desperate Jets that desperately need a quarterback.
Yeah,
so
it's interesting.
The parallel is pretty insane.
Brett Favre didn't play that well for the Jets.
What did he get hurt at the?
He got hurt partway through the season,
yeah.
So it wasn't all his fault. But they were good in the beginning when he was there, but they faltered down the stretch.
Yeah, so
didn't make the playoffs.
I'm gonna go with this is a bad idea because I think if we're talking about the Jets here, the Jets are one quarterback away. but you're basically loaning your future on a 40-year-old quarterback who we think Aaron Rodgers is going to have this comeback season. He's not Brady.
But what are the Jets going to do then?
That's the big question.
Right.
Robert Saleh still loves Zach Wilson.
Here's one thing they can't do, okay? They can't trade up in the draft to get one of these quarterbacks because that's what they've been trying to do. They got Darno, that was a bust, right? They got Zach Wilson, he's a bust, right?
There were a lot of quarterbacks.
Forget that idea. The Jets cannot do that.
Well,
they have been unsuccessful with that strategy.
They drafted Geno Smith.
They got to trade for somebody. They drafted Geno Smith. He was a bust for them. So
they also drafted Christian Hackenberg, who I think got hurt in the preseason.
I don't think he ever took a snap.
I think he played in one preseason game.
Second round. They gave up a second-round pick for that guy.
Yeah,
he never played.
They also got Chad Pennington. He was riddled with injuries. You got Mark Sanchez, who was probably your best draft pick in a very, very long time on the quarterback position.
That's true.
He made it to 2 AFC
Chad
championship
Pennington
games.
Did play some good games for the Jets.
He couldn't stay healthy, though.
He got hurt.
He couldn't stay healthy.
He had some bad injuries.
And then in the Brady injury season, he led the Dolphins to lead the AFC East.
Yeah.
So it was impressive, but just for the Jets, Chad Pennington was not. He was riddled with injuries. So I think we're talking about.
So what are the Jets going to do? What are they going to do? They got to get Aaron
Rodgers or bust.
Well, maybe Lamar Jackson.
That is an option.
They would have to overpay, and that's what Lamar wants.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that.
It's going to be real interesting. It's going to be real interesting to see what happens. I bet they're praying they can get Aaron Rodgers.
Here's my tier list of what if the Jets could pick.
Does he after his dark retreat or whatever it was he did? Has he said anything whether he wants to play? Nobody even knows whether he wants to play yet or not.
He went on that one podcast. Oh, and here's something else that's hilarious. He's being like a featured speaker on a psychedelic conference.
Really?
Yeah, he's gonna be a lead speaker at a psychedelic conference.
Well, he uses psychedelic drugs.
Ayahuasca. He's got the what? He took that. He took Percocet also to relieve pain, I believe. Wow. Aaron Rodgers is definitely a non-normal type of a quarterback, but I'm like, how far do you want to go with Aaron Rodgers? He's on a 2-year deal. He's got he got $50 million last year.
The Jets are praying that they get him.
He's owed another $100 million.
They're praying they get him for 2 years because unless they can land Lamar, which is a long shot, right?
Yep.
Then they don't have any. What's left? Maybe they can make a run at Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe they can make a run at him, but there's going to be some others that will be making a run at him, and Jimmy Garoppolo may want to stay out on near the West Coast, go to the Raiders.
Very well could have.
Yeah, so the Jets are in a tough spot. They're in a tough spot.
Here's what I don't understand, and maybe you could explain, or maybe someone else can explain who's watching this, is Aaron Rodgers is going to be 40 years old. He came off a not great season without Devontae Adams. He still had 2 very, very good running backs, a pretty good offensive line, and a pretty good defense. He doesn't work well with young receivers. He's going to an entire team who's extremely young. He's going with Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Breece Hall, all these super young receivers.
He may not running back. He's not a good fit for the Jets.
I don't think he'd work.
They want him big time.
They have to.
They want him, and they have to get it. They have to get him because there really isn't much else out there.
There's Jimmy G, and there's probably 0.1% to get Lamar Jackson.
Right.
Unless you give him an absolutely absurd deal that the Ravens just don't want to match.
The Jets are crazy enough to do that, I think.
They have been so unfortunate
they'll be in a
with
tough
quarterbacks.
spot, and they have the New York fans and the New York sports writers. They would be capable of making a big horrible deal, and Lamar will be happy, and they'll give up the 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, it would be. Hey, Woody Johnson, their owner, said that they would spend a lot of money on
the Ravens would sign Aaron Rodgers. I'd say if Aaron Rodgers plays next year, and he's either going back to the Packers or the Jets. It's one or the other. I don't see him anywhere else.
You don't think he'll retire?
Nah, I don't think so because there's too much money at stake.
$100 million.
Yeah.
$100 million on the table.
That's a lot of money. $100 million bucks. Right?
It is an absurd amount of money.
With taxes and everything, he'd probably only take home about half of it. And his agent fee and everything, he's going to take home about half of it. So $50 million.
It's a lot of money.
I mean, that deal that he did, the $50 million, he got $50 million last year, right?
Yeah. It was $150 million fully guaranteed deal.
He only taken home about half of it.
Well, right now it's about a third. And now, it was a $150 million deal, fully guaranteed.
Yeah, so he's
got 50, 50,
he
50.
did the whole 3 years. He's netting about $75 million. So it doesn't look like such a great deal. He needs the money. He needs the money, Nate.
I don't think he needs the money. He's made hundreds of millions of dollars now. But do the Jets want to be successful in the playoffs?
Of course they do.
Aaron Rodgers is not, as a back-to-back MVP. Aaron Rodgers did not live up to being the back-to-back MVP. We're talking about a guy who tore up the NFL for 2 seasons, and then just because you were playing a great defense, all of a sudden that's an excuse now? You were a back-to-back MVP. You didn't throw a single touchdown pass in that game against the 49ers. I get it. They had a phenomenal defense. You were the number one quarterback.
He's a great cold-weather quarterback, and he didn't live up to it in that game, for sure, right?
Your head coach against the Buccaneers in the NFC Championship game didn't trust you to score a touchdown on what, 4th and goal. They kicked a field goal and just prayed Tom Brady would throw his 4th interception in that game. Of course he didn't. The Bucs won the Super Bowl that year. You were a back-to-back MVP. You threw, what was it? I think it was an absurd number, like 60, almost 80 touchdowns in 2 years.
In that game, he had
90 touchdowns in 2 years.
In that game, he made a mental mistake. He had the opportunity to run the ball into the end zone.
Yeah, and he did it.
Instead, he threw it into incomplete.
And then
he could have run it right in. It was a lane right to the end zone.
I completely agree. He definitely would have beaten, I think it was Devin White, who was his spy.
Yeah.
He could have beaten him.
He that was a mental mistake.
And LaFleur's like, okay, we're gonna kick a field goal. We got to score eventually anyway, so we're gonna take the 3 points now, score the 6 later. So here's the thing. Yes, would Aaron Rodgers make the Jets better?
Yes.
1,000%.
Yeah. Couldn't make them any worse at the quarterback position.
That's
Look how
for sure.
terrible they were last year.
The thing I don't understand is the Jets still believe in Zach Wilson. Why?
I have no idea.
He's the second
They
overall
just don't
pick.
want to admit they made a terrible mistake. That's why.
They had to eat it with Sam Darnold in the
I'm
third year.
willing to admit they made a terrible mistake.
Hey, 2 years into Zach Wilson, and right now he's not looking good. It's not looking good whatsoever.
Looking horrible.
It's looking abysmal. So obviously Aaron Rodgers would make him better. Would they make they would be a playoff team? Yes. Would they be a Super Bowl contender in the AFC? They'd be very, very close to it.
I think so.
I still think Josh Allen,
You know
think
what?
Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow would beat him.
The Jets don't have to get to the Super Bowl for them to save face
Oh,
this year.
just
That's
to get
all
New
they
York
gotta
to
do.
talk
All they
about
got to
it.
do is win one playoff game.
They just
If
need
they
New York to
win-
talk
just
about them
win one
positively.
playoff game and be competitive in the second one. If they lose it, the fans won't. It'll be okay.
Yeah,
because
no, I
they
agree
got
with
to the
that.
playoffs, and Aaron Rodgers has a decent season. The fans will be happy.
Absolutely.
I think they'll be
Absolutely.
happy.
Here's the thing. In the first half of the season, the Jets were being talked in a positive light. In the second half, they were being ripped to shreds once again.
Rightfully so.
Oh, right, absolutely. Zach Wilson played horribly. Mike White was injured. He was like,
Mike White is not the answer.
He's not.
No. I knew that.
He's a good backup. Good backup. Not a great starting quarterback. He had a 2
You know what?
miracle
They would have
games.
been better off to just stick with Joe Flacco the whole season.
Don't bring it.
No,
No.
the whole season. The
Joe
first 3
Flacco.
games.
Flacco.
The first 3 games, he was good.
Oh, stop it.
They yanked him, and then Zach Wilson just laid an egg.
I agree with that part. But Joe Flacco's there to get a paycheck. He's not doing nothing for the Jets. Let's move on to our next topic because this is quite interesting, I believe. So Draymond Green and Dylan Brooks, they were head to head. It was Dylan Brooks calling out Draymond Green for being a bad player. Then Draymond Green responded on his podcast they talk about Dylan Brooks and how he hasn't won anything, and the team dynasty starts after Dylan Brooks, not with Dylan Brooks, going back and forth with one another. And it was very interesting to see just how crazy it turned out to be between these two, because they went up against each other. And it looked pretty ugly. There was at one moment where Dylan Brooks, I think, dunked on Draymond Green, got right in his face, and Draymond Green just didn't. He was shoving his elbow into his nose. It was just a weird situation.
Yeah, well, Draymond Green has a history of this.
He does.
He's a trash talker out there. He gets himself in pickles with other players. He gets himself technical fouls. He gets kicked out of games. He actually,
True.
He may have cost them the championship there against the LeBron and company.
He did.
Right?
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Completely
He
agree.
came back in Game 7 and tried to be a hero by shooting a lot of threes and missing them. And he's a loose cannon.
Well,
Yeah.
Here is both of them post game. We have it
I
here.
never heard of Dylan Brooks before, so I don't know. Is he somebody that's considered like Green, or Green is the guy that really instigated this and just upset Dylan Brooks?
Well, I want you to listen to this. This is both of them post game. All right, do we have the clip? I believe we have the clip here. If we don't, I don't think maybe we have it in.
That was an impressive showing tonight.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it. You should give the mic to Draymond. Make him talk about me.
What was that?
Make him keep talking about me so I can play better. I know I'm a better player than him. I can do the same stuff like he does. That's easy. That's just showing up to work. Me, I try to score. I try to figure out plays. I try to call out plays for my team. So just the fact that, he was trying to, pin my teammates against me, that's a low blow. I ain't out there, getting physical altercations with my teammates.
Draymond, obviously, this, I guess, called a rivalry now, has obviously been heated on both.
It's not called a rivalry.
What's that now?
This is a rivalry?
You want to call it that or not?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to call it that, but I would disagree. Rivalries are created by you win, I win. And clearly we won 4 times, and I think their organization has 0 championships, so I can't consider that a rivalry.
You say win, you ain't talking about in March, you're talking about...
I mean, anybody can win in March. Anybody can win in March. What that mean? I have a hard time getting out of my bed in March. What's the game in March mean?
I don't like the end of that.
He's a wise guy.
I don't like the end of that because the Warriors are right now the 3rd worst road team, and the teams that are ahead of them are the 2 worst teams in the NBA. So you need to start winning in March because you cannot play on the road. You need at least the 4 seed. You are currently sitting at the 6 seed. You are 3.5 games behind. Yeah, 3.5 games behind the Suns, who are the 4 seed, who you got blown out by twice this season. So the Warriors need to start winning in March.
What's the 7th seed? How far are they back from the Warriors?
Same exact.
3 games?
No, same exact record.
Same exact record.
They're
so
tied.
they have to be careful they don't drop into the play-in. Right? 7, 8,
it's going to be
9,
bad.
10.
So the Warriors need to actually start winning games in March. And Dylan Brooks said he's a better player than Draymond. That's just flat out incorrect. In this game alone, right? Dylan Brooks did score. He scored 14 points, but on 15 shots. Not great. Draymond scored 16 points on 9 shots. And if Draymond Green is...
How about rebounds?
It was 5 to 4. Draymond Green beat him out. Assists was Draymond 7, Dylan Brooks 6.
Oh, so they were pretty even.
3-pointers, 0-1 for Draymond, 1-7 for Dylan Brooks. I still give that to Draymond. Dylan Brooks did make 1, but he shot 7 of them. Draymond Green only took 1 3, and that was at the very, very beginning of the game. So, Dylan Brooks is not a better player than Draymond Green whatsoever. This season, the only thing Dylan Brooks is better at than Draymond is points per game at 14-something. Draymond Green has, I think, 9-something points per game.
Yeah.
So, Draymond Green is a better player than Dylan Brooks. The Warriors' offense and the team culture, regardless of what people say, before the punch, relied on Draymond Green. He was the heart and soul of that team. When Draymond got suspended in game 5 against the Cavs?
Was it 5 or 6?
I believe it was game 5. Because that's when the Cavs, it was game 5 because they were up 3-1. The Cavs came back and won that game. Won the game and won the series. And it's because Draymond Green got suspended. So Draymond Green is the heart and core piece of this Warriors team. And this road record, they're 7-26 on the road. They have one of the best home records, but this road record makes no sense. It makes absolutely to go 7-26 after you just won the NBA title.
I think that Draymond Green might be the soul when he's really on his game. He could be the soul of the Warriors, but I don't think he's the heart of the Warriors. I think Curry is the heart of the Warriors.
He's the face of the Warriors.
I don't know. He got 29 points last night.
I completely agree, but we're talking. I mean, think about it though. Curry was still there in Game 5 against the Cavs. Curry was there. Clay was there. Draymond was the only piece missing. And
Curry had 7 rebounds last night, 4 assists, and 29 points.
It's incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
It is great. Like, Curry is the player on the Warriors.
He's the heart of the Warriors.
Even when KD was there, Curry was the man.
Yeah. He's the heart of the
Because
Warriors.
Curry, but we're talking about how it functions. Without Draymond Green, we saw it, I believe, last year without Draymond, when Draymond was hurt. The offense looked nowhere similar than it was with.
They don't have the heart on the road. They're 7-26. And the reason they don't have the heart on the road, it stands out in their rebounding.
You think it's
They
rebound?
only had 25. What did they have? They had 32 rebounds
32
last night. The Grizzlies had 42.
Right.
They had 25 assists. The Grizzlies had 36. Right? They had 17 turnovers. The Grizzlies had 12.
Most of those turnovers came in I was watching it very closely in the third quarter. The amount of turnovers they had, consecutive possessions, multiple turnovers, it was ridiculous watching that game. And I think think about it. When you're away, you have to be together more. You have to be in sync more. When you're at home, you're sort of, show up to the arena, practice, get to work. But when you're away, you have to spend more time. You're in a team hotel. That punch in the preseason, that punch in the offseason, I think that severely affected the culture there.
Could be.
Because there's no chemistry. And also, I'll say it again, this team is too small.
Well, yeah.
Think about it. They started 4 guards. And Dante DiVincenzo, he was getting great minutes before, and he had a couple good games. 2 points. I believe there's 1 or 2 games ago, he had more rebounds than points scored.
John Morant didn't even play.
John Morant's still away from the team. He's going to be out for another, I think, 3 games still. At least 3 more games. And we're talking about a team who is so good on the at home because it was Oracle Arena. Now I think it's Chase Stadium or Chase Arena. When Curry makes a 3, the crowd goes crazy. When Clay makes a 3, the crowd goes crazy. If Kuminga makes a dunk, the crowd goes crazy. You're not getting that same type of uplifting energy that you would on the road. Now you got the Grizzlies who are booing you to death. It's a whole thing. So I think, the Warriors are screwed. If the Warriors could at least, and think about it, most of their games left are on the road.
How come they don't step up and play good defense?
They're too small.
They're built. No, but they were small last year too, and they beat the Celtics in the finals because they played fantastic defense. They played great defense on the perimeter.
They did.
They played great defense on the perimeter, and when the Celtics tried to go down low, they were able to counter it, even though they were a smaller team. How come they can't do that this year? Nobody's playing any defense in the NBA this year. That's
not
the reason.
Not a lot of teams play defense.
Everybody's giving up on defense, right?
That's true.
All the games are in like 115, 120 points. Some of them up in 130 points. Come on.
A few up in the 140s.
It used to be not that many years ago.
It was the race to 100.
Breaking 100 would be.
It's the race to 100 to win.
Yeah.
Now it's more like race to 125 to win.
I know. And it was laid out for you in the All-Star game there. 184 points.
There's some that got to 190 in the previous All-Star games, too. We're talking about that could break 200.
I think they need to stop playing more defense.
The Warriors don't have the bench.
It looks like just a shoot-around out there.
The Warriors have no bench. They got JaMychal Green, who's okay, but not great. You got Patrick Baldwin Jr., who made
Don't they
3.
have Gary Payton Jr.?
He's going to be out for another month and a half.
No.
He was their defensive piece last year. You got Ty Jerome, who isn't anything special, put up 11 points. Like they don't have a great team. You got Andre Iguodala putting up 18 minutes. Iguodala is supposed to be like the Udonis Haslem, where he just sits on the bench and mentors everybody. He barely plays anymore. Now he's putting up 18 minutes. Like the Warriors team has no bench. They don't have much depth. You're starting 4.
Isn't Jordan Poole? He's not a starter, right? He comes off the bench.
It depends on the lineup. Jordan Poole has a lot of talent to him. It's just he's so inconsistent. That's the problem. He's supposed to be the next Curry and Clay.
22 points last
He's supposed to be the next Splash Brother. And he's inconsistent. He had a pretty good game. 5 of 10 shooting from the field, 2 of 5
The fact that he got
from
cold
3.
cocked by Draymond Green before in the preseason might have had something to do with it.
Affecting the road culture.
Yeah.
I think it's bad. And I think the Warriors playoffs, they're lucky if they make the play-in now because they have so many games on the road left.
Yeah.
It's going to be ridiculous. I think they're going for the worst road record in NBA
you think
history.
Steve Kerr could do something about that. He's a really good coach.
There's not many answers to it, and now you're past the trade deadline. You got rid of James Wiseman, who's the 2nd overall pick, I think, 2 years ago. Kuminga got hurt in pre-game warm-ups in this game. I think he tweaked his ankle, so he didn't have that youth athleticism. The Warriors, they're not looking good. Now you lose to a team that you were trying to clown. It's bad. It's very, very bad.
Yeah, well, Wiggins didn't play last night.
Wiggins is still dealing with an injury.
Yeah.
They
need him back for sure.
They need to get to the 4 seed, so at least if they make it to a game 7, it's at home. That's their only hope. You could lose every road game. If you're the 4 seed in that first round, you could win a game. You can win a 7-game series if you just win at home. So there's your answer. Get the highest seed possible, even though most of your games are on the road.
Yeah.
And
How far behind are they of the 4 seed?
3.5.
3.5
behind
games,
Phoenix, who they can't beat because they're a bigger team.
Phoenix is vulnerable right now because, as we're going to talk about in our next block here, Kevin Durant is hurt.
Then let's go to Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Let's go to Kevin Durant. Durant tweaked his ankle, and we actually have that clip now, which I'll bring up. He tweaked his ankle in practice, in pregame warmups, and people say it's a wet spot. That ain't a wet spot. He just rolled his ankle. It turned out to be a sprained ankle. He'll be out 2 to 3 weeks. So I'm going to ask you, do you think this affects the Suns' chances at making a deep playoff push?
Maybe. It's Kevin Durant's looking more and more vulnerable in terms of injuries.
Right.
He's how many games has he played this year?
I know he's played, I think, 3 games in 3 months.
Yeah.
So.
Not good.
Think about that for a second.
Yeah. I mean, when he's in there, he's great if he can stay healthy, but not looking so good for him.
Here's the thing: we hate on.
That's bad for the Suns, too,
absolutely,
because they counted on him.
If I'm going to include this because I think you could determine whether or not it's an accurate value. We talk about how many games Anthony Davis has missed. I think he's missed 145 games. KD's missed 150. KD has missed a tremendous more games than Anthony Davis, and we hate on Anthony Davis for never being available.
Yeah, well,
AD stands for always down.
KD did tear his Achilles tendon.
He did, that's part of the 150 that I'm including.
Yeah.
But we're talking about 3 games in 3 months. You're talking about availability. Although, here's what I'm going to say about this. I don't think it should impact their chances as much as people are thinking it should.
For the Suns?
For the Suns.
Why is that?
This core of CP3, Booker, and Ayton, they already made it to an NBA Finals.
Mm-hmm. But they gave up some of their players.
They got rid of Jay Crowder.
KD.
They got rid of Jay Crowder. They gave up Bridges.
They gave up some pieces, right? Now KD isn't playing. So that puts a lot more pressure on those big 3.
But
they're going to play more minutes.
Devin Booker dropped, I think, 38, 40 points, something like that in 28 minutes. You're not going to get that performance out of him always, but if you get relatively the same performance of a Devin Booker who's really, really good...
He's going to have to play more minutes now.
He's got to play significantly better. Everybody needs to play significantly better, and you're relying on... Well, how old is Chris Paul? 38 years old? You got to rely on him to be your sole playmaker on that team. And you got to hope DeAndre Ayton is healthy and is performing. I don't think it's going to impact them to the chance where, KD's out there. They're not going to make it to the NBA. They're not going to make it to the playoffs. They're going to drop all the way down. They're not going to make it to the finals. I think you win 1 series without KD. It's just a question of when KD plays, he's been the most consistent player, averaging 27, 7, and 4. That's ridiculous how you're able to do that consistently. So I don't think this impacts them as much as people are saying because the core, while they're older, this was 2020 against the Bucks Suns. While yes, Chris Paul's older, Devin Booker's older, DeAndre Ayton is older. That core 3 players still made it to an NBA Finals. Jay Crowder was on that team. I believe Mikal Bridges was on that team. So you got rid of those 2 players. So maybe you could be right. But I think if you have the core players there, I think that still gives you a chance at winning at least 1 playoff series. But a deep playoff run, I think you need KD there. Although the West seems so open.
I don't think they can't win a championship without him.
I don't think so.
No way.
I don't think so.
They got to have him. He's got to be healthy.
But can they win 1 playoff series? Let's say.
I think so. Sure. They can win 1 playoff
You talk about someone who's unavailable, like, Kawhi Leonard or a Paul George. That's the 5 seed. They would be playing the Clippers at the playoffs.
Beat them.
I think they could also beat them. Absolutely. In a 7-game series, I would think
their chemistry's all screwed up now that they got Westbrook.
They won a couple games with Westbrook now. Maybe Ty Lue figured out how to use Westbrook.
Maybe.
Who knows?
But they lost 4. That hurt them.
It was rough, but
4 games at this time of the season to lose 4 games, that's not good.
By the way, to talk about the Warriors. The Warriors now are on an 8-game losing streak. I believe that's their second 8-game.
It's amazing that
road losing streak in a season. I think that's a record, having 2 8-game.
It's amazing they're the
streaks.
6th seed. They just play great at home. That's
I think they're 26-8 on the road, something like that. I don't know. I don't have the number in front of me. Yeah, at home. Yeah. The road record, I still don't understand how that's even possible. But like I said, if we talk about the Suns here, they could win a playoff series. But if the question is a deep playoff run, no, I don't think they can make it to the Western Conference Finals or the NBA Finals without Kevin Durant. I assume you would agree with that as well.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to our last topic. It's quite an interesting one, actually, because Stefon Diggs went on the shop recently to talk about, the Bills and, what's going on with the Bills. And we have the video now, which we will play. This is Stefon Diggs talking about why the Bills, or what he thinks, the reason the Bills haven't been as successful as they've been projected to be.
Doesn't make sense. Like, I will wreck my brain with this shit at this point because my first year I got there, we went to the AFC Championship. The next year we lose by 13 seconds.
And what are you missing to get over the hump in your? Are you missing anything? Is it execution? Like, what do you think?
I think it's more execution than anything. There's small little pieces on why shit is not going right, and I'm like this. You can wreck your brain. Like, we got the players, we got the plays. Why it ain't coming together? And I'm like, that's when you draw so much questioning. I never want to question like who I am. I never want to question how I am. I'm giving this shit everything I got. I'm dying on the hill of that. You know what I'm saying?
So, you heard Stefon Diggs explain what he thinks.
Yeah.
What do you think is the reason for the Bills' lack of overall success?
Coaching.
Really? Ooh. Yeah. Be more, what do you define coaching?
Let's go back. Let's go back
to
the Chiefs versus the Bills in the playoffs 2 years ago.
You mentioned it.
13 seconds left. The Bills stopped coaching. The game is a 60-minute game. Every second counts. They were not prepared in that very last Chiefs drive. We've talked about the bracket defense that they played when the Chiefs had 2 timeouts. And they just, the defense, the coaching was, they had a chance to move on and get a chance to get into the Super Bowl. And they blew it. They had the lead. The Chiefs had only a few. That doesn't happen. No team, very few teams ever would make it to down there to be able to kick the field goal with only that, just basically two plays left.
I would put
right?
2 quarterbacks in that situation.
3 plays maybe because they had the 2 timeouts, but still, they did it. And that was on the coaching staff. I got to tell you, Sean McDermott, he muffed that one. That was their chance to move on. They were ahead and they gave that up. They could have moved on. They might have made it to the Super Bowl. They could have won the Super Bowl. This past year, they just weren't ready to play the Bengals. I mean, and they had them in on their home field with the weather being bad, but snowing out, and they were not ready to play. That's on the coaches. I'm sorry. That's why.
I'm going to agree with you, but I think it's because they're too Josh Allen reliant. They don't have a consistent running game. Josh Allen it's the same thing for Lamar. Although Lamar doesn't have a Stefon.
It's a little different than Lamar.
No,
Josh Allen doesn't run as much as Lamar does.
Correct, but
Josh Allen makes mistakes in the red zone. That's the problem.
That's also true. Without Brian Daboll, his game we saw this year, he regressed a little bit.
Yeah, that's coaching.
Okay,
Thank you. I agree.
Fair point. But it's way too Josh Allen reliant. Josh Allen he's the sole guy on that offense. It's not the same as Lamar because Lamar doesn't have a Stefon Diggs. But outside of let's say Stefon Diggs gets double covered is essentially a no-go because we've seen that in consecutive playoff games. We saw Stefon Diggs. We talked about it on the show. He threw up his hands and was telling Josh Allen, "What are we doing here? What are we doing? We're losing a game we should win.
Yeah.
The offense is not going anywhere."
Josh Allen ignored him.
I mean, I mean, Stefon Diggs. You complained about Mac Jones. What do you think about Stefon Diggs doing that?
It's a little different when a wide receiver's doing it than the quarterback. The quarterback is a leader of the offense.
Okay, fair.
Stefon Diggs is wide receiver.
Also, it's player to player, not player to coach.
Yeah,
that's also true. But I think it's like Lamar is the Ravens' offense. We saw the Ravens' offense dip tremendously without Lamar Jackson there. Without Josh Allen making these incredible plays, I mean, think about it. We saw Skylar Thompson go toe-to-toe with Josh Allen. Josh Allen needed to make some crazy throws. I think there's a throw to Gabe Davis.
They were not ready to play that game. Well, they did wind up winning that game against Miami,
they were playing
but just
Skylar
barely.
Thompson.
Just barely,
They
I
played
know.
Skylar Thompson.
Right, and they were playing at home, too. Yeah, I think they have coaching issues. I think that's
that Bengals game was horrible. That Bengals game was terrible. And I said it at the beginning of this year. This is the year to win. You had Von Miller, who got hurt late in the season.
Well, Von Miller wasn't playing.
He got hurt late in the season. You had...
It wasn't that late, the season.
We're talking about, what, week 8, was it?
No, that's not that late. That's halfway through the season.
Yeah, just to make sure, just to get the facts right, let's see.
He was hurt early in
He
the
played
season.
11 games.
Oh,
He played 11 games. Okay. So it's about midway, almost midway. So
beyond midway. It's a 17-game season.
I said slightly midway. Slightly.
Yeah.
You're by what? 3 games off from midway point? Something like that?
That's quite a bit.
2 games off. So you had Von Miller. Your defense was looking great. That opening game against the champion Rams, I was like, okay, that's the team we need to see. The defense disrupted the Rams' offense. Rams couldn't do really much.
Great. The first couple games of the season,
they looked phenomenal.
They were unbelievable. Their defense was a killer defense. And then
I completely agree.
I don't know. Even with Von Miller in there later on, they kind of tailed off.
Right.
And I don't know how that happens, right? That's on the coaches, too.
Well, that's why I'm saying this was the year to win.
The talent is there.
This was the year to win.
Why isn't next year the year to win, too? I mean, they still have basically the same team.
Because, well, first of all, you got rid of Brian Dable, and we saw Josh Allen regress. Josh Allen's making a lot more mistakes, especially in the red zone. I think he led in red zone interceptions this year. So they need to get a better run game that's not Josh Allen reliant. Josh Allen was the second leading rusher at 700 yards. But we're talking about a team that only relies on Josh Allen to make plays. You don't have that other option like a running back like Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, when they had that 4-game winning streak late in the year, it was the running game and it was the defense. Aaron Rodgers was not a big...
Well, the Bills don't have much of a running game.
They don't really have much of a running game at all.
They should go out and get a running back.
And now it looks like the Bills are going to lose their safety, Jordan Poyer, and Tremaine Edmonds, their linebacker, in free agency. So now your defense may regress without Jordan Poyer, a tremendous safety, and Tremaine Edmonds, a very, very good linebacker. So we could see a regression from the Bills here, and I think, spitballing here completely, if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets, and if Tua has a full, healthy season, which now looking at Tua, 2 concussions, 3 head injuries in a year, could be rare, could be a low chance, I think the Bills won't win the AFC East.
Don't forget about the Patriots.
The Patriots need to get some talent first. They need better quarterback play. They need another running back because they
have
may
a
lose
great
David
offensive coordinator now.
They do have a great offensive coordinator. Gronk made a comment on saying that the Patriots are just going to be relatively the same team as they were this year. A really great defense,
Yeah.
a decent offense.
Gronk doesn't like Belichick very well.
Fair, but I think this was the year to win. I think there were 2 Josh. Right. It was the Josh Allen Stephon Diggs show.
The AFC East is a pretty strong division now. You know, it's got a lot of good players in the AFC East.
If Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets, the Patriots are the 4th best team in that division. Let's be honest here. Let's be objective here. Tua and that offense healthy with Jalen Waddle and with Tyreek Hill.
It's going to be tough for the Patriots.
It's going to be very, very tough for the Patriots. But this season was the Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs show. Gabe Davis, inconsistent is too nice of a word for Gabe Davis. He had 1 or 2 great games, then have 4 or 5 horrible games. Then you have 1 or 2 good games, and then you just have a bunch of average to bad games. You don't really have that second option. Gabe Davis played, he set an NFL record in the playoffs in that Chiefs game, had 4 touchdown catches. Since then, we're like, okay, Gabe Davis is on the roster. Where's he on the field? And he didn't really do much this season. So they need some sort of other option there. I don't think the Bills are winning. I don't think the Bills are going to win it this year. I really don't. I really thought this past season was the year to win it.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about Mahomes without Tyreek Hill, so we didn't know how the offense was going to look.
I think that if they have a poor year, I think Sean McDermott's gone.
Here's the thing. If you said that last year, that would have been a hot take. Seeing this year, I think it's not hot as a take as people are going to think now. Is Sean McDermott now the right coach for Josh Allen and the Bills team? I think that's a seriously good question. Yeah. And you know what? It'll probably have to be answered this year on how they perform. But I don't know. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what exactly happens. But I do think that is going to wrap it up for the Harvey Hour here, unless you have anything else.
I'd like to say hi to Grandpa.
Hello,
Hope
Grandpa.
you're watching out there. We're thinking of you. Love you, and hope you enjoyed the show.
Yeah, but for this episode of the Harvey Hour, that'll be the end of it. My name's Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We are the Harvey Hour. We will catch you guys Monday. Monday is basically, we got to talk about free agency. Free agents coming up, because that is, I believe, Wednesday it opens up. So we may see people move straight away. We may see
We'll
some
see what
amazing
happens
picks.
over the weekend.
It's going to be
There'll
very,
some
very
news.
interesting. Very, very interesting to see what exactly happens. Hopefully some Aaron Rodgers news or Lamar Jackson news. We'll get to see. But for this episode of Harvey Hour, my name's Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We are the Harvey Hour. We will catch you guys 6:30 p.m. Eastern right here on YouTube. Monday right here on YouTube.
Bye-bye.
Introducing video podcasts on Spotify.
Transform your storytelling into a show everyone can watch
Or listen to.
Easily upload your video through Anchor, Spotify's free podcast creation tool.
So whether you're showing off a new recipe
Interviewing an exclusive guest,
or uncovering the next mystery,
you can now reach a whole new audience with Spotify.
podcasting just became more than audio.
Create with